What's up everybody and welcome back, I'm Calvin Maclure. Part 1 began with the trip to the moon and what was to have been our second lunar orbiter mission, but an overburn led to an impossible capture, and so the probe was sent crashing into the moon instead. With the agency aggressively pushing for crewed flights to occur, a critical gap in science needed to be bridged. The scientific community on the civilian side and the United States Air Force's Reconnaissance Division on the military side both tapped into advances in Earth observation technologies and sent aloft several satellites that would study our home planet. Alniac satellites 3 to 6 were all successfully placed in their intended orbits, thus completing the first ever space-based communications network. Preparations for the agency's newest launch vehicle, Atlas Lyra, were well underway with a pair of test flights in order to certify Maclure Space Systems' new X405H engine. But despite efforts to establish a mature, more capable launch vehicle from the get-go, the first 3 flights of Atlas Lyra ended in loss of mission, with only the 4th flight being successful. Once again, we were reminded that space is in fact hard, with the high space dedicated science research satellite failing to reach its intended orbit, having been delivered to an unusable orbit. The United States Air Force's Reconnaissance Division's Earth observation satellites, dubbed Thea-1 and Thea-2 after the tightness of sight, were intended to stay in orbit for a duration extended well over 100 days. But with mounting pressure for crewed missions to begin, the Department of Defense having a vested interest in the matter, the decisions to force an early return of the film capsules to accelerate technological developments that would fuel crewed technology gains was taken. Orders were issued and executed, and both satellites' return capsules were brought back to Earth. As the capsules returned, the unusual sight caught the attention of a few would-be astronomers across several counties, prompting many news stations and papers to produce stories about the mysterious unidentified objects streaking across the night skies at incredible speeds. To many, this was a clear indication of potential Soviet mischief. The United States Department of Defense did not issue any statements deterring this perspective. boasting 4 LR-89 booster engines and 2 LR-105 sustainer engines and a price tag to boot. Atlas Aurora is the agency's newest launch vehicle and the uncontested heavyweight champion. Derived from the already proven Atlas booster, Aurora reuses the Lyra upper stage from Atlas Aurora and incorporates the Juno 4 transfer stage as an optional fourth stage in the interstellar configuration. In a joint partnership, Convair, the makers of the Atlas booster, along with Maclure Space Systems, the makers of the Lyra and Juno stages, entered into an agreement to produce Atlas Aurora, so named as with its 6-engine configuration. Aurora would go on to set the skies ablaze, much like the natural light display it was named after. To maximize the rocket's capabilities and minimize development costs and lead times, the controversial yet unproven use of drop tanks, affectionately called asparagus staging, was integrated into the design. Essentially a stretched version of Atlas Lyra Interstellar, but with twice the engines, Atlas Aurora retained the stage-and-a-half configuration, added the newly developed use of drop tanks, with future developments upstream seeing the incorporation of what Maclure Space Systems called the most revolutionary upper stage ever created, called Centaur. Following a successful insertion into its parking orbit, Intrepid 1, the first ever probe designed for a soft lunar landing, was one step closer to completing its mission, and Atlas Aurora was now one for one. Wanting to maximize returns, scientists and engineers incorporated solar panel technology onto the Juno 4 transfer stage. Following a small course correction, Juno was now on a collision course with the Moon, while Intrepid 1 continued its course to lunar capture. When scientists and engineers back home saw a sudden drop in the telemetry, panic nearly ensued as many feared the worst. But lo and behold, the signal regained full strength only to flutter once again in a cycle, almost suggesting the craft was tumbling on the lunar surface. Engineers rightly concluded that Intrepid 1 had in fact soft landed on the moon and tumbled afterwards. With its solar panel in an unfortunate resting place, the scientific payloads were run for their full duration until Intrepid 1's batteries were depleted.
Okay. Roger, sufficient. Thank you. Cameras and tape off. ECS 3 on off. Control 3 on off. Control fuel. Everything looks good on the ground.
Fuel is 25. Radio is 96. Cameras and tape recorders on.
Box on. Cabin pressure.
15.2.
Air temperature.
94.
All systems on the ground look good.
Oxygen. 100% plus.
Read out your DC volts.
Main is 24. Secondary is 24.
Stop it off.
Number 1 is 25. 2 is 25. 3 is 25. 4 is 25. Standby 26. Isolated 29. Back to main. Current is 29 amps.
Roger, suit cabin temperature. Everything looks good on the ground.
40.
Roger, full.
The weather
ACS,
marginal 5. And also the weather is 3-2. Marginal seconds. The weather and all other is good.
CM blockhouse, do we gotta go?
Yeah, 23 amps.
Roger,
Right,
radio
Visualize 20.
CM blockhouse, do I have a go?
Capcom,
Stand by one. I gotta know, I'll have to have a hold of two.
Is presently indicating 6-1.
2 minutes 45.
Oxygen is 75, 100.
We have a valid temperature.
Roger, understand. CM is
Temperature
have
65, pressure is 580.
Tony, hold on with me until I give you a word.
agency had gotten off to such a fantastic start, with several back-to-back flights aboard its X-15 rocket plane repeatedly crossing the Kármán line, starting as far back as 1959, even reaching heights greater than 200 kilometers. Nobody suspected crewed orbital flights would take as long as 1965 to occur.
All voltages above 25. Amps 6. All systems are go. Sky looking very dark outside. Roger, understand. The sky above is absolutely black, completely black.
After an arduous and rigorous selection process, United States Air Force pilot, engineer, and chief test pilot at Edwards Air Force Base, Captain Joe Mitchell was selected to fly the very first ever capsule into space, called Mercury.
Coming up on the scope. I can see clear back a big cloud pattern way back across toward the Cape. Beautiful sight. Control so far is excellent. Very good. No problems at all so far on control. Cabin pressure holding steady at 5.7. Cabin air 9.0. Relative humidity 3.0. Coolant quantity is 6.8. Suit environment is 6.5. Cabin pressure, suit pressure is indicating 5.8. Steam temperature 6.0 on the cloud decks themselves catch a sight of the ground underneath once in a while.
In a surprise sighting, Mitchell, while piloting the state-of-the-art spacecraft, spotted an unusual sight. Looking intently, Mitchell realized that what he was seeing was the Atlas booster that had been his very ride into space. While Captain Mitchell and his Mercury capsule would go on to orbit the Earth, the booster would go on to a fiery end in its journey back into Earth's atmosphere.
The horizon is a brilliant blue. The window is by far the best view. Had a beautiful sunset, and can see the light way out almost up to the northern horizon. In the periscope, I can see the brilliant blue horizon coming up behind the approaching sunrise. Over. You're very lucky. You're right, man. This is beautiful. I am having no trouble at all seeing the night horizon. I think the moon is probably coming up behind me. Yes, I can see it in the scope back here. And it's making daylight. Very white light. The clouds. The stars seem to go through it and then go on down toward the real horizon. It would appear to me. Running electrical check. All batteries 25 or above on main, going through orbit checklist. Some 7 or 8 degrees wide. Standing back, I can see the clouds now belong to the dark band and then a lighter band that the stars shine right through as they come down toward the horizon. Emergency landing bag. I can identify Aries. The landing bag was already off. I got in first and reported it. Retro manual is off. I can see dust storms down there blowing across the desert. A lot of dust. It's difficult to see the ground in some areas. Over. All systems are go.
All systems on the ground look good.
Captain Joe Mitchell, 37 years old, a Protestant, married, and father of 2, a boy and a girl, would go on to complete 5 orbits and enter into the record books as the first American ever to orbit the very planet from whence he came. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, let me know your thoughts on the episode and the series, and even the channel. Tell me what you think of it, and what you think of the designs. I always do enjoy reading your comments. I hope you'll tune in next time. With crewed flights now underway, and brand new launch vehicles, it's about to get very interesting. This is Calvin Maclure, and I'll see you next time.